Guys, welcome back to Words of Weather. I'm Zach Duhaime, and this is a show all about weather. Well, we're actually back at the HHS studio. We had a great time the last few episodes with permission to interview Sam Cantrell and Gil Simmons, professional meteorologists from News 8. A big thanks to them and to the whole entire crew at News 8 for making my dream come true and showing everyone else on my show what it's like to be a real broadcast meteorologist on TV. But this is the question that everyone's wondering. It's been a hell of a winter so far, and it looks like it's going to be just as bad for the next coming weeks. When will winter ever end? Well, who knows? We're going to take a look in to see what may happen as soon as a few days and what may bring more snow and cold. So this is the main reason why we're going to see a snowstorm coming up. So this episode is going to be about the pattern, but also about a storm. And I'm talking about a storm that's going to be coming. I'm filming this on Thursday, guys. Thursday. This is going to be coming Monday. Today's the 27th, I want to say, Chris? Check, 27th, there we go, got it right. So this would be for the 2nd and 3rd, it would be Sunday to Monday. And the reason why it's going to be a rather prolonged storm, it's not going to be like a quick mover because the jet stream is going to do a weird thing. It's called a split flow jet stream. And without getting all technical, remember a jet stream, it's just something that moves, whether from left to right or from west to east across the United States. It's reversed in the southern hemisphere. But for our sake, we'll just keep it simple here. And basically you have the Pacific jet or the southern jet, and this one brings the warmer air. This will bring the moisture into the stuff. And then you got the polar jet, which brings the Arctic air. This is the polar vortex. You probably heard a lot about that over the last few months in the winter. The polar vortex is basically upper level low that spins in the heart of the North Pole, right around the Canada and stuff. And then a piece of it dropped down. And this year we saw a big slug of it drop down. So that's why we saw well below average temperatures. And between the two jet streams, you have a boundary. They call it a boundary. And wherever that boundary sets up, usually a big storm will form, and then it'll move wherever the jet stream goes. So this is another map. It's called, again, the split flow. This is a 500 millibar upper level low pattern. This is really technical, guys. All you need to know is what I'm going to tell you. These are basically the two jet streams. This actually map I got off Google Images because I'm not able to get my own model maps because they're just models. This does show a little too far south. This line right here would be a little more north, and so would this be. But this is the basic idea of a split flow jet stream. You got a weak storm there. Again, these are upper level lows, not surface low pressure. So these aren't like big blizzards and stuff. This is in the upper atmosphere. But these are what really get blizzards and snowstorms at the surface going. And this basically would track along here, and there's going to be a big temperature difference in between here, and that's called the boundary level. And that's why in Connecticut we could be looking at a big snowstorm come early next week. Again, I'm filming this on Thursday. This would be a Sunday night into as late as maybe early Tuesday deal. Things could change, but I think we have a good handle on it. The models have been pretty good, so I'm going to give a good shout out. This is the National Weather Service from Boston, actually. This is their timeline of what's going to happen. Again, you got the system way out in the Pacific Ocean. It's going to dive down. Give out California, by the way. California in a severe drought, one of the worst droughts in history. They're going to get like flooding rains and heavy rain, which is good, but it could be too much at once, mudslides and stuff. But that's coming to California, so that'll be good for them. And that same system will dive down in the Gulf, pick up the Gulf moisture, and then right up the coast. But it's not really your classic nor'easter because it's more of an inland. It's more tracks inland. It doesn't really come right, up the coast. Kind of is more of an inland cutter, so it kind of cuts through, down here and stuff like that. It's hard to see on this map. But I also want to back up and point out to you that this is the percent for precipitation. This was actually yesterday's map on Wednesday, and I'm pretty sure they increased this, so this would be 84% that we have precipitation, or in this case snow. I do agree with them, and this is again the area looking at this low pressure. I'm not going to go too much into that because this could change. This is like just a basic write-up of what they think could happen in the next coming days. But this is another more basic map of what can happen. This is the exact track or around where they think the track of this low pressure will be. Like I said, it's not a coastal storm that comes up the coast. It's more of an inland cutter, but it doesn't cut in. If it cuts this way, we get rain. It's no big deal. But it just comes south of us, just south or around the 40-70 benchmark, which is that classic benchmark. And even though it's not going over this way, even if it comes this way, you have the cold air, you have the moisture, you got snowstorms coming. So that's how it's going to happen. And this is also, again, not to get technical, this is an 850 millibar temperature map, and all this is going to show is a temperature difference. Here's your dip in the jet stream, a nice trough right there. But what I really want to point out is right here, you have the very mild there, 60s, 70s, and right to the north, only with maybe 50, 60 miles, you have teens and 20s. And in between there is what's called the boundary, like I said earlier in the show. And this boundary is what will be what the storm really forms off of, because you have the huge contrast in temperature. The temperature gradient is very, very extreme, and that's to get storms to form along that boundary. So wherever this exactly sets up is where you would see a storm form and ride it. And this blue, this little like light white blue line here, it's really hard to see, it's really thin. That's the freezing line. And here's Connecticut, remember, here's Connecticut. Again, it's hard to see, I know. And that's where the freezing line is. So right now, this looks like it most likely will be an all snow event. I can't promise it, but that's what it looks like it could be. This is the surface map. This is what you actually see on the models. This is what you look at when you look at the surface, how much precipitation you're going to get. So this is like surface based, not in the atmosphere. This is what the models are showing. And this is, again, the yellow right here. You see that's actually really heavy precipitation. The yellow is moderate to heavy precipitation. And this is the 12Z GFS run on Thursday. I didn't take the 6Z because those are the in-between models. This is the OZ. I keep getting confused. There's 4 runs. I can't remember that. It's crazy. But this is the OZ model run. The 6Z already came out, and the 12Z is later on. You want to stick with your OZ and 12Z to do your modeling forecast because the 6Zs and 18Z model runs are kind of in-between models. So this is the OZ, which came out around midnight last night. And again, it shows the freezing lines right here. So it's close to us. So there may be mixing issues, but this shows a classic snowstorm for us. A long duration Sunday night through maybe as late as like late Tuesday. Some models are trying to take it out earlier. I would say at least through Monday, maybe into even Tuesday. So a double snow day, hey, I'm not saying it's going to happen, but Monday looks pretty promising for school to be closed. And Tuesday there can be issues with delays and I dare say another cancellation. This is the European model run. Again, you see the American model was the last one. This is the European run, the 2 main weather model runs we look at for forecasting storms. And this, again, really confusing. You got the upper level precipitation. This is the pattern. This is the tilt, the jet stream, and the 500 millibar pattern. But this is the surface map. All you have to know, without getting too technical, the low pressure is right there. It's hard to see. Here's the precipitation. Connecticut's right there. This is the boundary I was talking about, that black line. The storm forms along it. Give us a big snowstorm. Again, I'm not trying to get too technical, but there's the upper level lows you have to worry about. There's the jet stream you got to worry about. There's the temperature gradient. There's the storm track. There's so much that goes into forecasting these storms, but I'm trying to give a good shot at it. Most models have a decent handle on it. So that's what I'm trying to talk about it. Now, after this storm, what will happen? Well, actually, cold air, more cold air. It looks like maybe next Wednesday, Thursday, we get a reinforcing shot of Arctic air. The polar vortex dips a little further south, piece comes down, and now you're talking about cold. And when you got cold, all you need is a storm to get more snow. I'm not saying we're going to get loads of snow in March. We're probably going to have maybe 1 or 2 more storms, and it may only be a few inches. But the jet stream dipping down south, you bring up the Gulf moisture, you bring a storm along it, cold air, again, you got a snowstorm. I get repeat myself all winter long. This is the classic setup for a snowstorm, and it'll probably stay through beginning to maybe mid-March, with the cold lasting even longer. But there is hope in sight. This is the first week or 2 March, but then this is what looks like may shape up for towards the middle and end of March, and hopefully well into April, May, June. More of a mild jet stream. We have the separation of the jet stream, but see how you notice how this is so far south, but this one is so far north. In between, you have the mile there, because if the farther this thing's south and this thing's north, you got to face the Pacific flow, and it brings in warmer air. So Connecticut's right here. So we're just on the line at according to AccuWeather.com map. Before I forget, guys, I actually got to shout out Bernie Reno from AccuWeather.com, a great guy. I learned a lot of this modeling stuff from him. He's a great meteorologist. If you like weather, I would suggest following him too. But these are AccuWeather.com maps. I'm not going to forget to source them. And this is also, I do agree with, again, the jet stream moving up, the polar vortex moving up, and that would mean more mild air. So it's going to be a long road ahead, guys. I'm filming this on Thursday, the 27th. This storm will probably be the 2nd and 3rd, which would be Monday, Tuesday. Things can change, and they could definitely change. And I do think some things will be changing with the models, but most models do point to a snowy picture. Early estimates, I'm not putting out a accumulation map because it's just too early, but I would say 6 inches or more looks fairly likely with the storm. Is there mixing? Is there ice storm? Rain? I don't think ice and rain will be the main issue. I think it'll be snow. So I'm going to wrap it up here, guys. Hope you enjoyed it. I'll probably be back in a few weeks talking about wrapping up the whole winter forecast as spring. The spring equinox is coming pretty soon. So hopefully we'll talk about spring and warmth. But for the next few weeks, just remember, cold and snow. I'm Zach Duhaime. Hope you enjoy my forecast. And this is my first time doing actually a forecast for a storm. So it's a little rough in the edges, but I give it a good shot. So until next time, I'm Zach Duhaime, and this is Words of Weather.